Rain hammered the stone walls of Blackthorn Castle, and thunder rolled across the dark hills like the growl of some ancient beast. Inside the castle, torches flickered against the wind that slipped through the old windows, and the guards stood stiff at their posts, used to the storms that came every year on this same night. Alpha King Cain Voss stood on the highest balcony, letting the cold rain soak through his shirt. He did not feel it. He never felt much of anything anymore, not since the night his Luna disappeared 3 years ago. That night had also been filled with storms, screams, and fire. He remembered running through the burning trees, calling her name until his throat bled, and finding nothing but ash and silence where she should have been. Since then, Cain had ruled his kingdom alone. He was strong, feared, and respected, but the warmth that once lived behind his eyes had gone cold. His wolf, once playful and proud, had become quiet and heavy, as if it too was mourning something it could never get back. Tonight, like every year on this date, Cain could not sleep. He walked the walls of his castle instead, letting the storm match the storm inside him. That was when he smelled her. It came suddenly, carried on the wind through the rain, a scent so familiar that his heart stopped for a moment. He gripped the stone railing, his knuckles turning white. It could not be. He had told himself many times over the years that his mind was playing tricks on him, imagining her scent in crowds, in old rooms, in dreams. But this time, the scent was real, and it was close. Cain moved fast, faster than any human could see, down through the castle halls and out into the storm. The guards at the front gate were arguing with someone. A woman, thin and shaking, stood outside the iron gates, soaked from head to foot, begging to be let in. "Please," she said, her voice trembling with cold and exhaustion. "I mean no harm. I only need shelter for the night. I will leave in the morning, I promise." The head guard shook his head firmly. "No strangers are allowed near the castle tonight. Alpha's orders. You must leave." The woman's legs buckled, and she nearly fell into the mud. That was when Cain stepped forward, his boots splashing through the rain, his eyes locked on her. "Let her in," he said, his voice low but full of command. The guards startled, bowing quickly. "Yes, my king." The gates creaked open, and Cain walked toward the woman himself. As he got closer, the scent grew stronger, wrapping around him like a memory he thought he had lost forever. His wolf, silent for 3 long years, stirred inside him for the first time. It did not growl or snarl. It simply went still, the way it used to when it felt safe. The woman lifted her head weakly to look at him. Her hair was tangled and dark with rain, her face pale and thin, with old scars along her cheek and wrist. Her eyes, though tired, held a strange familiar shimmer, like moonlight on water. "Thank you," she whispered, before her knees gave out completely. Cain caught her before she hit the ground. She was lighter than she should have been, as if she had not eaten properly in a very long time. Holding her in his arms, he felt something inside his chest crack open after years of being frozen shut. He carried her inside without another word. The healer of the castle checked her over that night, finding old wounds that had healed badly, signs of hunger, and deep exhaustion. When Cain asked her name, she answered softly, "Ren. That is what people started calling me. I do not remember my real name. I do not remember much before 2 years ago." Cain studied her carefully, his jaw tight. "What do you remember?" Ren's eyes grew distant. "Fire, running, someone screaming a name, but I cannot recall whose it was, or if it was mine." She shook her head, frustrated with herself. "I am sorry. It is like trying to hold on to smoke." Cain said nothing, but inside, his wolf paced restlessly. Everything about her called to him, the shape of her face, the sound of her voice, even the small habit she had of touching her collarbone when she was nervous. It could not be a coincidence. And yet, he refused to let himself hope. Hope had betrayed him too many times in the last 3 years. He ordered a private room prepared for her, along with warm food, clean clothes, and 2 guards stationed outside her door. Not as prisoners' guards, but as protection. He told his advisors she was being held for questioning, in case she was connected to the enemies who had attacked the kingdom before. It was not entirely a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. Over the next few days, Cain found himself visiting her chamber more than he intended to. He told himself it was simply to watch her, to be careful, to make sure she was not a spy sent by the Ashwood pack, the rival wolves who had attacked the castle the night his Luna vanished. But every visit left him more certain, and more afraid to say what he was thinking. Wren was kind, even after everything she had been through. She helped the young servant girls carry water despite the guards telling her to rest. She hummed a soft, familiar tune while she worked, one that made Kane's chest tighten every time he heard it, though he could not remember where he had heard it before, or perhaps he simply did not let himself remember. One evening, as she sat by the fire in her room, sewing a torn sleeve with careful stitches, Kane stood in the doorway watching her. She looked up and smiled gently. "You watch me a lot, my king," she said. "Do you still think I am dangerous?" Kane stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I do not know what to think of you." Wren tilted her head, studying him with those familiar moonlit eyes. "Then tell me what you feel, instead." The words caught him off guard. For 3 years, no one had asked him that question. His advisors asked for orders. His soldiers asked for commands. No one asked what the Alpha King felt. "I feel," he said slowly, "like I have met you before, long before that stormy night at my gates." Something flickered across Wren's face, confusion, and beneath it, a strange ache, as if her heart recognized something her mind could not yet reach. "I feel that too," she admitted quietly. "Sometimes when you speak, it is like hearing an old song I forgot the words to." Kane wanted to tell her everything then. He wanted to say her name, her real name, and see if it woke something inside her. But fear held him back. What if he was wrong? What if hope broke him one more time? Trouble arrived not long after. One night, an Ashwood spy disguised as a traveling merchant slipped into the castle grounds, sent to finish what had been started 3 years before, eliminating any witnesses to the attack that had once nearly destroyed Kane's kingdom. The spy attacked in the courtyard, aiming for a young servant child playing near the well. Wren did not hesitate. She threw herself between the spy and the child, taking a blow meant to kill. Guards rushed in immediately, overpowering the attacker, but the damage to Wren was severe. As she lay on the cold stones, pain surging through her, something inside her broke open, not her body, but the invisible wall inside her mind that had kept her memories locked away. Images flooded back all at once. A wedding gown, a binding ceremony beneath the stars, Kane's voice calling her name in the burning forest, poison burning through her veins as Ashwood traders dragged her away, a healer's gentle hands, and a whispered spell meant to protect her by erasing who she was, so her enemies could never find her again. "Illyra," she gasped, her eyes flying open as Kane knelt beside her, terror written across his face for the first time in years. "My name is Illyra." Kane froze, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. That was her name, his Luna's name, the name he had screamed into the fire 3 years ago. "I remember you," Illyra whispered, tears slipping down her face. "I remember all of it, Kane. I remember loving you." Kane gathered her carefully into his arms, his voice breaking as he spoke. "I found you. After 3 years, I finally found you." The mate bond between them, silent and dormant for so long, surged back to life in that single moment, wrapping around them both like warmth returning to something long frozen. Kane's wolf, quiet and grieving for years, rose within him fully awake for the first time since the night she vanished. The healer worked quickly to treat her wound, and though the injury was serious, it was not fatal. Illyra was strong, stronger than anyone had realized, and within days she was recovering steadily, her memories returning more fully with each passing hour. With her mind clear again, Illyra was able to tell Kane everything, the names of the Ashwood traders who had taken her, and something far more dangerous, the name of someone inside Kane's own court who had helped plan the attack from within. A trusted advisor, one Kane had never suspected, had opened the gates that night in exchange for promises of power from the Ashwood pack. Kane's fury burned cold and controlled. He gathered his most loyal warriors, and with Illyra beside him, refusing to be left behind despite her healing wound, he moved against both threats at once. The confrontation with the Ashwood pack was fierce, but for the first time in 3 years, Kane did not fight alone. He fought with his Luna standing at his side, her courage matching his strength, her presence steadying his wolf in ways nothing else ever could. The battle ended with the Ashwood Alpha defeated, and the traitor within Kain's court exposed before the entire kingdom. Justice was served, not with cruelty, but with the same firm fairness that had always defined Kain's rule, now softened by the return of the woman who made him whole. In the weeks that followed, the kingdom slowly returned to peace. The people who had once only known their Alpha King as cold and unshakable began to see him smile again, something few of them had witnessed in years. And beside him, always, was Alira, no longer the ragged stranger who had once begged at the gates for shelter, but the true Luna of Blackthorn, finally home. On a clear night, with the stars bright above the castle and no storm in sight, Kain and Alira stood together beneath the same ancient trees where their binding ceremony had been interrupted 3 years before. This time, there was no fire, no screaming, no darkness waiting to tear them apart. Kain took her hands in his voice steady and full of quiet emotion. 3 years ago, I lost you before I could finish what I started. I am not making that mistake again. Alira smiled through happy tears. Then finish it, my king. Surrounded by the pack that had waited just as long as their alpha for this moment, Kain and Alira completed the binding ceremony that had been stolen from them so long ago. As their bond sealed fully beneath the stars, cheers rose from the pack gathered around them, echoing across the hills that had once carried only grief. The Alpha King, who had ruled alone in silence for 3 long years, was alone no longer. The woman who had once begged for shelter at his gates was now crowned beside him, not as a stranger given mercy, but as the Luna who had always belonged there. And as Kain looked into her eyes, he finally understood that hope, even after the darkest years, could still find its way home.